This is Interpreting Wine host and founder Lawrence Francis welcoming you to a special series celebrating the beauty and diversity of Slovenian wine. These episodes, recorded in September 2019, let you virtually travel with me on a personal tour organized by Mojca from Enjoy Slovenia, Travel and Wine. The episodes to be released in the order in which they were recorded will let the country unfold for you in the same way that it did for me. For more information about wine tourism in Slovenia, please visit enjoy-slovenia.com. Wines from the producers featured in the series can be ordered at fineslovenianwine.com. And finally, to be in with a chance of winning a case of wines from the series, do head to interpretingwine.com/fineslovenianwine. Today's episode of the Slovenia Travel and Wine Special comes from Sanctum Wine. Leaving Maribor, following the tasting and cellar tour, we headed north to the Slovenian Styria region and the Sanctum cellar. With Špela Stržišar, partner of Sanctum Wine's founder, Marko Podkubovsek, we learn just how deep the winemaking tradition runs in the Slovenian terroir. We hear in depth the philosophy behind Sanctum, and perhaps never before has anyone described just how committed one has to be to make wine when you're trying to make the best you can. Winemaker Nick Gee joins us for a tasting of 3 wines: the Sanctum Chardonnay, the Sanctum Pinot Noir, and the Sanctum My Red, which blends Pinot Noir and Syrah, before Špela looks ahead to the future of Sanctum.
So we are a team of people. There is an interesting story how we got together. Of course, it took years. So my background is I was studying communication science, communication networks, working on my PhD from communication networks. I started with IT, and besides that, I could not resist to create the first music school some 15 years ago. Then all of a sudden, I changed. I said to the guys, I said, look, I love to work with you, I love the projects we do, but I think music is more for me. At the same time, I started to look into jazz and blues, and I founded the first music atelier to study jazz, even if you are a beginner. So how to develop methods. I still stayed quite scientific. I love methods, developing methods, working with data, and we are succeeding pretty much now. And so my musical background gave me a little bit, I would say, feeling for the high notes, for the higher frequencies, yeah. And of course, it's not only in music; it's everywhere. It's in food. It's in wine as well. And once, with a friend, Marko's friend, who happens to be my neighbor in Ljubljana, we visited Marko. They were friends in USA. And when I tried a sip of Chardonnay, Prestige, I said, who is this artist? And that's how we met. That's how I met Marko. It was more than just, I would say, wine. It's you can see all art that surrounds you. Yeah, he has stories from all around the world, working with the really most demanding clients in the corporate incentive work. And of course, who's Marko? Marko was around the world eating the best, drinking the best wines, and he wanted to come back, and he decided that here he will create an estate, a state of art, yeah, and a cellar where can be the best healthy wines for his own health, for his own food pairing, for his own soul and mind and everything. Yeah. He was always comparing to the world. He was not comparing to Slovenia. His favorites were wines that he was drinking in Burgundy, Pinot Noir, Syrah, and Chardonnays. And it's not a coincidence why he came back. It is backed up story from his investigation and his talks with the local priest who happened to be a missionary on Madagascar, and Madagascar was a French colony. And through his church archives, this priest came to data about Carthusian monks. Of course, this knowledge was long forgotten. Here were completely different vineyards with these local varietals. And it happened that this priest was a big lover of Pinot Noir. And he dedicated years to get out from the archives what was here and who Carthusians were, because they came from the Burgundy land. At that time, in the 10th, 11th century, Burgundian monks had the biggest know-how of winemaking at that time in Europe. And when the king they were sent toward this territory of Austria and so on to spread the Carthusian religion. But at the same time, one of their motives, the drives, is entrepreneur, and they were very entrepreneurial. They had wine, they had knowledge about herbs, about all these different things. And when they were traveling toward east, they found out that they are on the same, parallel, of Burgundy. Yeah. First, because they were following that. So they found out that not only they are on the same parallel, it also turned out that they found these hills here, very specific shapes, exposures, and of course marl. So they found the terroirs that they knew from Burgundy. And of course they had know-how how to use those terroirs. So slowly they brought the varieties they had there. So those three, parade horses, of Burgundy, the Pinot Noir, Syrah, and Chardonnay. They brought it here. They made big cellar just next to the village. They built Carthusian, this monastery, beautiful. Then later, I think in the 18th century, they were expelled as persona non grata here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were too entrepreneurial, so they stepped on the nerve of the Austrian royal family. Yeah, and that knowledge was forgotten, and the terroirs, the king, the royal family said, okay, if you cut all the vines that they planted, you can take the territory. So this was a decree to the farmers here. So you can take the land if you cut what they created and you put whatever you want here. So that's how through a few generations this was completely forgotten, and it was very difficult, to get these things back. And this is what this priest did, because he loved this local community, and he loved Pinot. It happened that Marko, when he was coming from US, he was talking to this priest somehow. He was a friend of his father, and both of them loved Pinot Noir, and they were talking about it. And that priest told him the story, what he found, and Marko said, "If this is so, I will not try to discover a warm water. That's our saying here. I will use what Carthusians knew 7-8 centuries ago. Yeah. So I think it's very important that that he basically stepped on the shoulders of the giants. So he's not something that it would come because of some local attachment or some emotional impulse, you know. It came from knowledge. It came from knowing the land. It came from know-how that was here long time ago. There were problems with bringing Syrah to this land because it's not a local varietal, but Marko somehow smuggled it in, and it was planted here ever since. His famous one, Red Barrel, is 100% Syrah. The specifics here will be explained by Nick better because it's a cool climate territories. So it means relatively cold nights and so on. So the wines get the spices, especially the Syrah, like it's côte rôtie, spicy, yeah, Syrahs from Burgundy. Pinots develop aromas just because of these changes and because it's not so hot and it can get marmalade, it can get burned out and so on. So I started with it that we are a team of people. Marko was very much selective. He wanted the best. He wanted to have the best in his glass for himself. Yeah? And he was looking for who would love Pinot as much he loves it. And eventually, wrong people lead you to the right people. Yeah. So there were. He was looking for the right, and eventually he found Nick. Nick has a great, very interesting story from his early age. Definitely a persona, yeah, with a character. So he takes care for what to put together, which barrels, which was the aromas, how to. And Rado, his right hand, yeah, he is doing his PhD on this viticulture, agriculture, yeah. So we all have really we respect knowledge and development, yeah, and trends. And it turns out that it's a very international team. Yeah. Until now, here was also a guy from a bit north from London. Yeah, he came as a right hand to Rado and Nick, and was great. He loved to work in the cellar, in the vineyard, being very precise, very hardworking. It's it takes a very special character of people, and you cannot necessarily find it in your local community. So you have to look more, on many places. Yeah. And it's also kind of culture that also brings people together. That's what they respect, on what level they respect it. And that's how people stay together, being creative on their own field and contribute what each can contribute. Yeah. Yeah,
that felt like you bring us up to kind of up to the present in some senses, but there's more. Yeah,
it's present all the time. You know, it's present because it comes from inner who Marko is. Yeah, what keeps him, what keeps the drive in him. So his motto, and people know that a lot around the world. He says, "You know what? No suffering. And that's basically very important, because if you want to have to survive in a good way, yeah, you have to avoid certain things and suffering for sure, huh? And keep bringing or taking care to bring things that make you happy, that make you more relaxed, that make you more, I don't know, growing, yeah. And so this no suffering it really means something, yeah. It means much more than just survival. It brings in Marko's sense it brings the standards of where he thinks we can survive, and it's the standards are pretty high. Yeah. And the second thing what drives him, I would say, is he's very simple. Sometimes he really surprises me. He says, you know, Špela, God is good to good people. And I asked him once, how do you know you're good, you know? And that's really the case, to be good today. I mean, it's not only being good, you need to be the best. And to be the best, you need to take care of your own education, yeah, of your own skills, on your own, having wide horizons, having a lot of experience, a lot of, I would say, huge network of I would say, information, sources, people, whatever. So, and then luck turns a little bit in your way, right? It doesn't come just by coincidence. Yeah, and this is what drives him. It took him 15 years. He was pouring wine away for 15 years, so he was satisfied, yeah? And now you can see him coming home in the evening. He takes a glass, you know, and he opens his Pinot, yeah, or this Natura, you know, that he created basically for himself. And he enjoys. But it took 15 years for him to be, you know, to say, okay, yeah, that's for my soul. Yeah. So Sanctum came one evening when Marko was sitting with this priest, his friend, and they were thinking about the name, how they should call this wine. Yeah, he was able to convince the priest to turn the church terroirs here into Pinot as well, so that they would go together because here the church has really great terroirs and exposures. Yeah. So they were sitting one evening and they were brainstorming, and somehow they got this idea, because this place is, as it's written here, Sanctum means something secret and something sacred, yeah, in Latin. And they thought this is just the best description, the best explanation of what they want to do and what they want to create. So when he came, he basically put different lands together into one piece to create his story of these three varietals. Yeah, he found what would be the terroir, the best for Chardonnay, and again, when he was trying to figure out, he knew the head of the wine cellar in Chateau Pomar, and they discussed once I think he brought the bottle of his wine there, and they were drinking, and the guy said, "You know what? Just send me 3 kilos of this soil, what you have." And they made analysis. And from then on, he got exactly by these grand maestros, what barrels to use, how old, what to plant somewhere according to an analysis, what would be the best there and there. And so that's how he put vineyards, how his cellar has different kind of barrels, from where these barrels come. Some they come from France, they come from also from Slovenia, and so on. It depends what they found out. So again, he turned to consult, with people who know the business, who has long experience and great reputation, in wine industry. So Sanctum is an estate. It's a brand name. It represents. It states for the boutique winery, boutique, very, I would say, low, small production, artisan wine. That was in the first. It was Burgundy wine cellar. So at first it was a Burgundy style, and more with the knowledge that Marko got and experience and Nick's knowledge, they become more confident how to do less and less intervention. So basically today all the wines are with indigenous yeasts. So the yeast that come from the vineyards, with low intervention, and that's basically the Nick's philosophy. Yeah. And they're doing a great job. One thing that I think it's great to hear is when people that are really wine connoisseurs come and try the wines that are here in the cellar. They can't believe that this is possible to get in Slovenia, that this is not on some really Burgundy ground, that it doesn't come from, So it's, they can't believe that it's in the middle of this place, can be such a extraordinary Chardonnay or Pinots. They can level to any French, any high quality of the same varietal. And that's the only reason for that is because Marko wanted that standard, that quality of wine and aromas. He knew Pinots around the world. He knew exactly what kind of aroma of Pinot he wants here, and what the cool climate can produce, and what the Marl can give. And he just went all the way. And getting better. Every year.
Chardonnay, we make 2 Chardonnays, The classical Chardonnay is partly done in oak barrel and partly in inox. And then the prestige Chardonnay is totally done in barrel. So the barrel component's always fermented in barrel, juice is going straight from the press to barrel. We are not adding any yeast or anything, just let it go. I think the soils here tend to give us, and the location of the vineyards tend to give us very wines with a strong acid backbone. They're driving through the acid-based wines, and I think you see that expressed in the glass now. So partly is fermented in oak, and part is fermented in inox, and it's aged for 1 year, blended together and bottled. I tried to be quite hands off. We'll only sort of interfere if something's going wrong. Yeah. Otherwise, we just let the juices start by themselves. If they decide to go through malolactic, we let them go. If they don't, we don't. We try to add as little sulfur as we can. That means just waiting. It's okay here. We can cool the cellar down in winter just by. It's cold outside. Yeah, it's not a problem. Open the door. Yeah. When the wine's cold, it's preserved pretty well. Yeah. And so generally we don't need to sulfur these wines until maybe 2 months before bottling. So after 10 months in the cellar, we'll make the first sulfur addition, and that's usually enough for bottling as well. The other thing with Chardonnay is we tend to... I put the Chardonnay juices go into barrel very dirty, so we don't rack them prior to filling the barrels. The juice, everything goes in. And then we don't rack the wine until bottling, so they're on the lees a long time. They can get a little reductive. The wines need a little bit longer to open up. So I like that the wine's in bottle for a few years before opening. I guess one of the differences here in the vineyard is the Chardonnay is all in one single block, whereas the Pinot Noir is divided into smaller parcels on both hills and also further up the hill as well. So, and each parcel with different clones, different vine age, so they're all tools in making the blend at the end of the day. The winemaking, again, it's reasonably straightforward. We are destemming, not without crushing, trying to keep as much whole berries as we can. We occasionally will use a small percentage of whole bunch inside. We are fermenting in 1,000 litre tanks, plastic tanks, which we can move around. And so the benefit is now we've just been crushing some Pinot. It's cold at night. We can leave them outside, keep the grapes cool for 3 or 4 days before the fermentation starts. Again, no added yeast, just waiting and watching. And generally, I mean, we tend to press off it once the ferment's finished. We're not waiting for to extract a lot of tannin. I like the wines to be silky, smooth, easy drinking. Yeah, and so generally the ferment finishes, we press off. It can be anywhere from 16 to 25 days on skins. It just depends what temperature the grapes were when we got them, the temperature of, the ambient temperature, and how long it takes to start fermenting and how fast it ferments. We'll generally plunge them up max twice a day, peak ferment. Otherwise, we are pretty gentle on the extraction. Aging is in French oak barriques used. So we buy 1-year-old barrels from Burgundy. There's no new oak, and I think the wine doesn't necessarily handle new oak so well. So we're just looking for the oak to complement the wine and not dominate it in any way. And we are, again, 1 year in the barrel without racking. And sulfur addition is after malolactic, but generally malolactic won't start until spring. So you're looking at adding sulfur at the end of spring, beginning of summer for the first time, and that's, again, we make one addition and it generally gets us through to bottling. I think in general, the classic, we look for a little bit more fruit expression. Prestige, we are looking for a little bit more complexity and maybe some savory elements. So you might find a little bit more whole bunch in the Prestige. You might find a little bit more newer oak used in the Prestige. Not new oak, but and then it's also certain plots perform better than others. So it's not always the same plots, but it's often one or two that are very good, but depends also on the vintage. Sometimes a plot that's maybe not performing well one year, the next year is performing well. We keep everything separate the whole way through, so we can look at it at the end and decide, is this worthy of the Prestige wine, or is this for classic? This, my red, is a blend of Pinot Noir and Syrah. So we're looking for that fruit from the Pinot Noir and that spiciness from the Syrah, and trying to find a balance between the two to make a bit bigger red wine, This particular vintage, 2015, is a blend of 60% Syrah and 40% Pinot Noir. The wine was in the barrel for 3 years. I can't talk about the winemaking, I wasn't here at the time, but I mean, I just, like I said, trying to find the balance between, the best that Pinot offers and the best Syrah offers. I am shortening the time in barrel now, trying to capture more freshness and let the wine develop in bottle rather than in barrel. But that means, of course, releasing it later on to the market. Syrah is right on the edge here. It's the last thing we pick. It's a challenge to grow Syrah here, which is good. It's good to be challenged. It's definitely cool climate Syrah. Pepper, spice. Cloves and cardamom and this kind of spiciness and white pepper, and we usually pick mid-October, the earliest for Syrah. It needs time on the vine. As far as the winemaking goes now, it's similar to the Pinot Noir, in that we're doing it in 1,000 litre open fermenters, gentle extraction, looking again not too tannic wine, silky smooth, easy drinking wines. I think if you don't mess with it too much, you get the best results. If you try to force it into a certain direction, you're going to make a worse wine. And so if you just let it go its own way, you'll find that in the long term those wines will be more expressive and better to drink.
What I love doing, and I encourage people to do, is to kind of almost, as we are here today, September 2019, where we can only think ahead as best as we can see now. Our thoughts ahead might change tomorrow or next week or the week after. And I just it can be fairly speculative, and anything can change. Brexit might actually happen. Who knows? One of these days. And it's just really to kind of almost like throw the door open for you, just to kind of, in whatever way makes sense for you, kind of look ahead. Like what are the in a sense, what are the kind of aspirations? What are the wishes? But just when I say that to you, what may be coming? What are the things that you would like to kind of happen and aspire to as a team?
Well, I can only say what is my point of view. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wish that. More people would be aware how the quality of food and wine as part of food, of nutrition, not as a drink, of gastronomy, a part of gastronomy, that would recognize that they would know better the reference points according to which they could choose and assess the quality of the wine, the quality of, I would say, the aromas. Yeah, there is a saying that it's a soul food, and that's basically, we don't have this tradition that, for example, Tantra has. Tantra is 4,000 years old. It's coming from the East philosophy. They knew 4,000 years ago that the energy of the grape juice feeds mental part of our body. So it's the head. And our soul, that's supposed to be above the head, is fed by these very evaporating things. Yeah? So it's esters, it's aromas, and so on. So we don't know anything about it. It works even if we don't know. Yeah. So the people, and especially the young people, would be more cautious about what they put in themselves, and they would enjoy more, and they would learn to relax more, not to abuse it as an alcohol, as a source of alcohol, but really as a food and inspiration. And what I wish for Sanctum is to be one of these reference points. And we will put strengths together and knowledge and everything that we can communicate that we can bring this and provide this as a reference point. So that it can be one of the milestones on which people can turn and can say, it is like, you can say, okay, it tastes like Montrachet, or it tastes like Côte Rôtie, or it tastes like Puy Fossé. Yeah, there are reference points. So that there would be, for example, a reference point, and there is a little spot in that part of the world where the terroir gives this reference point. Yes, I think this part of the country is very much unknown, but again, it comes with somebody needs to start, and it just depends how much strength and courage the person who starts it and knowledge possess. And it couldn't be better person. How much Marko has these abilities to promote and to communicate and to give to so many on so many I don't know, in so many parts of the world where we visited, people brought, Sanctum bottle out of the cellar. It happened to me in Prague. They knew it. The sommelier came and he said, "Mr. Marko, look what we found." And it was the trophy, the decanter trophy winning ice wine from 2007. Unbelievable. So people know it, Some people know it. And it comes to, of course, Marko, it takes I would say, a person to create something like, as well, Vinum USA, to create an infrastructure and communication network to give and promote this part of the world, to give. He stands for these great boutique wineries, and he's very much open-hearted. Yeah, he really wants people to know about good wines, not about his. Yeah, this is only one part of the this diapason. He really wants good people and good people to know each other, and that things would go on the right hands. And he did amazing work.
Thank you so much to Špela and Nick. It was an amazing experience to meet you both and tour the cellar. And I think that a visit to the region and to their cellar will leave you in no doubt as to how deep the winemaking roots run in Slovenia. For more information about wine tourism in Slovenia, do please visit enjoy/slovenia.com. To order wines from the series, do be sure to visit findslovenianwine.com. And you can also email Mojca any questions you might have at info@enjoy/slovenia.com. And if you're not already, I would love to have you following along with me on social media, where I'm at Interpreting Wine on Instagram and Facebook, at Wine Podcast on Twitter, and email hello@interpretingwine.com. See you next time.